After helping 50 plus e-commerce brands, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can transition from a CRO agency to an in-house program. I've seen it all, from rushing transitions to dragging out existing agency relationships way too long. Through working with brands like Ahead Nutrition, Rosenthal, DevShop, and many others, I've developed a proven three-phase approach that maintains your results while building internal expertise. This isn't theory though. This is the exact process that we have used to help brands double their testing velocity after they've been stuck with agency-led testing for years. In this video, I'm going to walk you through each and every phase of the transition process, show you common pitfalls to avoid, and give you a clear timeline how you can achieve the same results. Stay until the end so you know exactly what to focus on next to transition your experimentation program from agency-led, from consulted maybe, to an in-house program, and to actually understand what's the best fit for you right now. Let's get into it. All right, so what's the best way to transition from agency to in-house? Basically, we've identified 5 levels, or stages rather, of in-house experimentation, from end-to-end agency to fully in-house. I actually made a post also about this recently on LinkedIn. You might want to check it out because there is a nice graphic, all the levels, which is also something nice you can share with people in your org if you're interested. So yeah, there's 5 levels. Basically, they go from agency-owned, where you work with external partners that handle all aspects with more or less minimal internal involvement. The good thing is it provides you access to like specialized expertise, but at the same time, you're really limiting knowledge transfer. Also, this depends obviously on how you're working with the agency and what the agenda is really. Level 2 is, or with all these, it's level or stages, because it's not that level 1 is better than level 5, but in terms of going towards in-house experimentation, these are the levels or maybe stages that you transition from and to. Now, level or stage 2 is agency supported, where the agency is primarily the execution function, right? But you're trying to also add internal strategy and oversight. There's various versions of this. I've seen most of them by now, but it's typically offers a better alignment since you have the internal strategy and oversight, so you can bring not just like you're not just working with whatever the agency gives you, but you actually impact the program strategically. And also somewhat you have like higher operating costs, which is a bit of a downside because you have then more internal capacities plus still agency execution, but it's something sometimes you just have to go through in order to build up the program and get the ball rolling. Level 3, supported in-house internal capability, which is basically internal capabilities with added external support. It's a flexible model that I've seen work really well, and it can scale as needed. Oftentimes, this is like an extended workbench that the agency basically provides. So your internal teams, or maybe just a few in-house people that you have more capacity. Yeah, then there's consulted in-house, where basically we're now talking about a complete internal ownership of the program, but with periodic strategic guidance. This could be like through monthly or weekly calls, or just through where you work on a project basis with consultants to help you overcome certain obstacles, right? The benefit here is like really maintaining control while benefiting from external expertise that is in the current market also maybe just like hard to acquire internally, but also it prevents like a stagnation in the sense that you can make sure that you're working with people that also see a lot of other companies, and that's really a benefit to you at that point, right? And this is also partially what we offer and what we do with a lot of companies, like giving this external view on their program, helping them transition from one phase to the other, also in all these phases, and really just making sure they overcome the obstacles that are holding them back from running more experiments at the moment, better experiments, whatever it is they need to transition at the moment. Then level 5 is in-house complete. Or in-house, basically, right? We go from consulted in-house or supported to consulted in-house to fully in-house. Maybe I should rename this at some point. But it's a complete internal ownership of all aspects with zero external dependencies. This provides obviously a maximum of control and long-term cost efficiency, as long as systems are established and all these kind of things. What I see a lot of times is like companies going back and forth between consulted in-house and fully in-house, because fully in-house would assume that you're never working with any outside consultancies or with external partners. It's oftentimes just not the reality, and with very few companies that's the case. And it's also not a shame to just be like, hey, we have this certain problem, we can't solve it in-house, or we don't just have the capacity or capability in-house. When we get external consultants or training to help, it's totally fine to be always within these. But at the same time, it's also totally fine to be at any of the other levels. It's just about where you are in the journey at the moment, what fits your business model, and also what kind of fits your company at the moment, right? Yeah, actually, it's exactly what I wanted to say here. It's like each level literally represents a strategic choice based on your company's priorities, resources, long-term vision, not just for experimentation, but also generally for the company, right? If you want to check it out, please feel free to check out the post. It goes in somewhat a bit more detail on the certain levels, especially on the slides, because I think I have some pros and cons there nicely listed. So now the question is, which approach is right for you? And what I typically advise is to do like a comprehensive capability audit. Now that sounds all fancy, and I'll show you in a minute what it actually is, but it's about assessing current skills, resources, and processes. So it's basically taking account of all the things you already have and trying to understand what you need in order to get to maybe the next stage. And this is what we'll later look in gap analysis. But then before we do that, we also want to understand how are we strategically aligned, or how is the program strategically aligned with our business needs? And are we already where we want to be? And if not, we'll use that information exactly in the next steps. And we identify and plan for necessary improvements based on the gaps between the current situation and where we want to be, or where we think we want and need to be, right? And from the gap analysis, we can then create a roadmap. In this one here, I have it in 3 steps. In the picture here, it's in 4, because sometimes it's a separate step. Basically an outlining the steps to achieve your target capabilities, or in other words, to achieve whatever level or stage you want to transition into. Now, how could this work exactly? I talked about capability audit, and that it sounds like huge tasks, but it's basically just reflecting a bit on like what kind of skills do you have currently internally, right? But this could also mean like thinking about what kind of skills do I not have internally? Maybe some that you're resourcing from agencies, from consultants. Maybe you have partner company that you're working with. Maybe something is just done by a tool and nobody ever touches it, right? So this is something I would look into, like basically look at all the skills you need, and then look at what you have and what you don't. This is already going a little bit into the gap analysis, obviously. Then resource inventory, really just document existing tools and technologies. This could be like, do we have tracking properly installed? Do we have proper data coming in? This is maybe also part that you should always make sure that it's not just you have data coming in, but it's proper data. Then what kind of tools are you using? Do you feel like some of the tools are holding you back, or there's a lot of work involved with some of the tools, or maintenance or whatever? This is like resource inventory. Then what I always like to do is called process mapping. So look at the process. How do you go from research to an idea to insight, or like how the whole process works from insights, research, ideas, experiments? How do you recycle ideas? How do you generate learnings from experiments? How do you do analysis? All these kind of things. Even how do you present experiment results to other stakeholders? I would do the entire thing, map it, so you have an understanding of where you are currently. And then you can understand also, this is super hard for us. We're spending a lot of time while generating just little value. And then you can understand like what is the process, and especially where are friction points in the process. And sometimes, for example, I'm just going to make an example with knowledge gaps. For example, if you don't have a statistician or somebody who understands statistics specifically in terms of experimentation, there's a clear knowledge gap, one that you should fill in order to keep experiment quality high. This doesn't have to be statistics, it's just an example, but identify areas that need development especially in terms of knowledge, because that can boost you so far. Then second pillar or second task, strategic alignment. So you want to make sure that your experimentation program is properly aligned with your business goals. So this means whatever you're optimizing for should also align with company OKRs. Now there's a lot of difficulty, obviously, and I've seen this time and time again with companies where OKRs, they seem to change every quarter, trimester, whatever cadence you're on. And this obviously makes it a bit more difficult, but we also have a framework for how we deal with that we show and use with our clients. Then budget analysis, right? Does it actually make sense? Like, how much are we spending for an agency? How much are we spending for training? How much are we spending on in-house capabilities, right? This includes tooling, this includes people. Just really be honest with yourself and maybe with the finance department. Like, how much are we spending on experimentation? And do we at the moment think it makes sense? And if not, it doesn't mean that experimentation doesn't work for you. It just might mean that the current operating model doesn't make sense. Maybe the stage you're in is just not the right stage or the right kind of mode for you, right? Then stakeholder mapping. Well, this is a big one, and maybe it's a bit difficult in the beginning, but you might want to think about like who is actually involved in the process, who has an interest in experiments working out, who has an interest in making sure the program runs smoothly, in even giving budget, right? Make sure you understand not just decision makers in terms of like who decides if an experiment is a winner or a loser. This should be a totally separate process, but who makes decision in terms of moving the program forward, and understand their priorities, also their incentives. Super interesting. Like, different people have different incentives, different people have fears maybe also in terms of experimentation, and why maybe they might have a bigger interest in holding the program back. Use that then to understand first, but then also to act and help them get on board. Number 3, gap analysis and roadmap example. We don't have a specific roadmap here. Reason is different companies, different roadmaps, but you get the idea, right? There is different phases. First, you need to understand the capability audit. Then you need to you need to get all the info from your capability audit. Then you need to understand, are we currently aligned with where we want to go to? Or are we on track really also? And then putting that together, like our vision where we want to be and where we currently are, and create like a skills development plan, right? A training schedule. Maybe you need some outside training for people. There's great courses. We offer training programs. There's various resources people can just use to upskill. And this is something you should make use of. You probably have a budget for that anyway, but it's also something to use specifically for experimentation and to get people moving forward. Then technology roadmap. We assessed resource inventory, existing tools and technologies. Maybe we need new tools. Maybe we need to just fix existing tools, and maybe we just don't need others. So create a roadmap for what you need to implement, but also take into consideration other tech roadmaps that might be on the way already, right? If you're doing a platform transition, maybe talk to the people, a platform migration, maybe talk to the people that are working specifically on that. Then hiring plan, similar to upskilling, like understand where your skills are, and maybe also in terms of capacity, like what new roles might you need in order to be able to run more experiments, and then create a timeline for that. Talk to hiring, talk to HR or people, whatever it's called in your company, and also understand what their process is for this. But first, come with a clear plan for who do you need to hire, what roles, why, and how that will add to your overall goal. Then transition phases. You probably by now understand where you are, like which one of the modes you're running, which one of the levels and stages you're at. You understand that. Then you need to want to understand what phases are you transitioning into, or what stage are you transitioning into, and understand. Look, we've now more or less done the gap analysis. Now building the roadmap, and you need to understand. Okay, I'm here. Need to go to here. I actually have the development plan for skills, I have a technology roadmap, I have a hiring plan, and then you just need to create an action plan for all these things, basically creating your transitioning phases. Now, transitioning journey, probably the word I used the most already, or transition in this video, is basically moving from agency-owned to fully in-house experimentation is not a one-time project. It might, for example, be that currently there is an agency running all your experiments. Maybe you just want to move to level 2 or mode 2 for now, right? In order to have more strategic alignment, right? And oversight over the program and not just be something that, oh, over there, some agency does it. Yeah, so it's highly situational and totally also depends on your org's standing point, resources, like super important also, and goals, right? Then transition always happens in phases. If you've read the book by Kotter regarding the 8 stages of change management, then you'll understand that it's not just like, oh, we just change and then that's that. There's always resistance. You might want to think about a gradual transfer of responsibilities. Make sure that you don't lose knowledge just by, for example, ditching the agency. Typically not what I just recommend. Make sure there is a knowledge transfer. And yeah, then based on also your current needs and maybe needs in the future, maybe the agency that you're working with or the partner, whatever, will act more as an extended workbench going forward, right? This could be when your internal capabilities, for example, for development are limited, or maybe they act as a more strategic partner where you want to, need strategic help for knowledge transfer and capability building. Super interesting approach, by the way. And then where an agency is more as a consultant or is giving you consultant capabilities, where your teams or your people will need more guidance, maybe only periodically. But one thing, I always talk about agency-led. I would be a bit more flexible with that term, because sometimes all you need is like an outside view, help from a consultant, freelancer, or some guidance through, say, a mentorship, also something that we offer, for example. Reason is, some people call it agency, some people call it consultancy, some people are like freelancers that work together. There's like so many ways, and I'm not saying like, hey, agency ways are bad, not at all. It's just try to make sure you find a mode that works for you. And if it's an agency you're working with, or if it's a consultant, like there's various modes that can work. In this video, I'm trying to really give you an idea of what works best or what can work best for you. Now, common transition patterns. What I see a lot is people moving systematically, moving from agency-owned resources and processes to in-house. And obviously, this is something I'm trying to get companies to do, but it doesn't always work in a super gradual process. Sometimes there needs to be a hard cut. Other times it works very gradually over the course of, say, a few months, or maybe sometimes years. If you're going from stage 1 to stage 5 in like 2 years, wow, that's amazing. Sometimes it's way faster, right? Then hybrid operations. Oftentimes I see companies running in parallel, and that's totally fine. Knowledge transfer focus. Sometimes at first you want to just make sure you're actually learning and documenting and then learning before doing a full transition, in order not to lose progress you've already made. And sometimes one thing I see is people start focusing on tech stack first, because they realize the data quality is not right, and this is where they are lacking. And maybe tool ownership is with an outside partner, which personally I don't recommend, but sometimes that's the case. And then this is something companies need to focus on. With all of that, flexibility is key. Organizations should remain flexible in their transition approach and adjusting their paths based on a few factors. 1, available internal capabilities and resources. Another one, definitely speed of knowledge acquisition. Some companies acquire, because of the people they work with or the people they have internally, knowledge super fast, while others have credible problems doing so. Sometimes not exactly sure why, but I believe it's just also a cultural thing, and sometimes an aspect of hiring. Like, do I have the right people in-house that are willing to learn, or do I need to hire different people? And then changes in business requirements. Obviously, if your company is close to going bankrupt, focusing new budget on experimentation is probably not the right move, or maybe it is, but it totally depends on where you are right now in the journey. Also, how big your budget is. Maybe focus is on totally different topics at the moment. can be totally fine. Then also things like market conditions and competitive pressures. Ideally, this is not your problem because if you're just experimenting because you see all competitors moving past you, can work, but ideally this is more intrinsically motivated. Remember, every transition journey, and this sounds so cliche, but is unique to each and every organization, and success depends 100% in choosing the right pace and approach that aligns with your specific situation and capabilities. And if you keep these few things in mind, maybe use this guide that I created for you here, then you will have an easier time migrating or transitioning to the phase that will work better for you. And that's the proven process for transitioning from agency-led to in-house experimentation. If you're serious about taking control of your experimentation program, you now have the roadmap to make the transition. But let's be honest, this transition can be really challenging without the right guidance. If you need help implementing this specific process for your business, I'm here to help. I have helped dozens of companies go through this exact process, this exact transition, and save them months of trial and error. All you need to do is click the link down in the video description below and book a free strategy session. We'll assess your current situation and create a clear transition plan tailored to your business.